What do you do if you're training for a triathlon, but you can't do the running workouts because your knee pain is so bad? This is the situation one of my clients found himself in a few months ago when we first met. Fred is in his 30s, and him and his friends often sign up for different endurance events as a way to keep in touch as they're getting older and more responsibilities are crowding out that downtime that we all had when we were younger to just hang out whenever we wanted. The latest idea that they'd had was to do the first triathlon any of them had ever done. So they'd signed up for a half Ironman in May. That was about 9 months away from the time when we first met. Fred told me that the swimming and the biking had been going really well, but he was having loads of trouble with the runs because for the last 3 years he'd been having knee pain with any run longer than half an hour. The knee pain was so bad that if Fred did run for longer than half an hour, then he told me it would bug him for like a whole week. And he would even take Advil before his runs to try and reduce the pain a little bit, but it didn't really work very well. He'd booked a free call with me because he'd actually been and tried physio. They'd done some taping techniques and given him some glute exercises. He told me that the taping did seem to help reduce the pain on his runs, but he didn't really know what the glute exercises were doing. They didn't seem to be having much impact either way. And after a few sessions, he was frustrated that he didn't feel the knee pain was really improving at all, and he stopped going. Fred was frustrated that he couldn't just get on with the half Ironman training just like his friends were. And more than that, he was worried that he was actually doing himself permanent damage to his knees by continuing to run on them, even though they hurt. The real problem here, and this is what I shared with Fred, is that he lacked a comprehensive rehab strategy that was going to build him all the way up to the level where he can handle half Ironman training. There's nothing wrong with taping or glute exercises, but they need to be part of a comprehensive, progressive, and systematic rehabilitation plan. And this is a really common problem where Fred was stuck in this gray zone. He was too good for physio, and he wasn't good enough to just go out and train on his own. We call this gray zone the recovery zone, and it's actually what we specialize in. I can totally understand why Fred was worried about doing damage to his knees. I mean, who among us didn't have like a friend or a relative or even a doctor who's told us that running is bad for our knees or all that pounding is going to wear out your joints? However, research actually shows that recreational runners have less trouble with knee arthritis as they age than your average couch potato. And that recreational runners also seem to require knee replacements less often than the average population. So Fred and I agreed that our goal for his 12-week program would be to get him to the point where he can go back to the half Ironman training plan and do all of the running workouts as prescribed, but without any knee pain. During his first week, we got him to do a variety of tests, and we identified 3 key things that we wanted to work on and improve to help resolve the knee pain. The first was that we wanted to increase his strength. So yes, he'd been doing the right kinds of exercises, but he wasn't progressing, he wasn't getting stronger, and he didn't actually even know if he was making any progress. So what we did is assessed his split squat strength. So the split squat is kind of like a lunge exercise, and we got him to test his working max, which is an estimate of his 1 rep max. And we found that his working max was currently 75 pounds. So one of the things we wanted to do during his 12-week program was increase his strength. Therefore, his working max on the split squat would be higher. With that, we would know that in the split squat movement, which is very similar to the running movement, he was actually stronger. What this would do is mean that his muscles were better able to absorb the impact when he was running, so not as much would be going onto his knee joints. The other thing we did during his test week was to get him to send us some videos of his running technique. And when I had a look at him, we saw that he was quite clearly overstriding. Overstriding is when you land with your foot too far out in front of you. And what happens when you do this is you end up landing with the knee a bit too straight. This shifts more of the impact stress into the knee and away from the calf muscles. So we gave Fred some drills to do to reduce his overstriding. What this would do is move the stress away from the knee and into the calf musculature. And finally, something really interesting that we noticed with Fred is it didn't really matter how fast he ran. in terms of how much pain he experienced in his knees. So when we got him to do sprint intervals for about half an hour, it would hurt about the same as if he did just a zone 2 steady run for half an hour. So we used that information and actually gave him more interval work at different paces to increase the variety of stress stimuli going through the knee that would help drive adaptation and make his knee joints more resilient to the stresses he would experience when he was running. We also found that with swimming and biking, it didn't trouble his knees at all. So we got Fred to just stick to the same training plan he'd been following in terms of swimming and biking and just keep us informed through the app we use on what he was doing so that we could incorporate that when we planned his running workouts. We stopped him doing any of the running workouts from the training plan, and we took over complete control of all of the running training. I needed a few things from Fred. I needed him to log all of his pain data when he did his runs so that we could adjust accordingly as we went along. I also needed him to record exactly how many reps and sets he did on all of his lifts, particularly those split squats, and make sure that on that lift, which we called his focus lift, he was working hard to try and lift more weight each week along the program. Around 8 weeks into the program, I got Fred to send in a couple more videos of his running technique, and we were both super pleased to see that there wasn't any evidence of overstriding at all. So he was landing with a nice flexed knee, and what that did was shift some of the stress away from his knee and into his calf muscles. And Fred even told me that he felt when he was running now that he could feel his calf muscles working harder. And for me, that's good because that's stress that's coming away from the knee where the problem is and going into the calf muscle where he can absorb that stress more easily. The other thing that was really cool is we saw that his working max test on the split squat had increased from 75 pounds to 125 pounds, which is a massive increase in strength. What this does is demonstrate that his program is progressing his strength, and we know he's getting stronger. We know when runners get stronger who have knee pain, their knee pain tends to improve. So this is a key difference from what he'd been doing before, where he was going through the motions with his exercises. He was doing them, but he didn't know if he was getting any stronger or not, and he wasn't pushing himself to get stronger, and even if he was, he wouldn't even know. So not only was his technique looking better, and his strength was measurably higher, the best thing is that the pain was way better. Even 8 weeks into the program, he was up to running 40 kilometers a week. He could run for over an hour with no knee pain at all. By the time we reached the end of his program at 12 weeks, Fred told me that he hadn't experienced any knee pain in weeks, and he was thrilled. He said he could run short, he could run long, he could run fast, he could run slow. It didn't matter. He didn't feel any knee pain. This was really important for Fred because he was only in his 30s at the time. And maybe in the short term, all that would have happened if he hadn't done anything about this knee pain is he would have missed this race or not done very well for that race in May. However, he would have been hesitant to sign up for more events with his friends going forward. And what happens over time, and I've seen this so many times in the clinic over the years, is that as time passes, people gradually pull back and do less and less because they're trying to protect the area that hurts. They're trying not to damage it, which is totally understandable. The problem is that year on year, decade on decade, you do less and less and less. When we met a few months ago, Fred was frustrated with his inability to push himself in the training, and he was really worried about doing permanent damage to his knees. He was afraid to sign up for certain events with his friends because he didn't want to do himself any harm. Now he's gone back to his full half Ironman training program, and he can do all of it without any pain, including the runs. He's ramping up his training in preparation for that half Ironman in May. Nice work, Fred. Good luck. If you're having trouble with knee pain when you're running, even if you're one of those weird triathlon type people, we can probably help you. Just click the link in the description to book a free call with us. We'll have a chat about what's going on and see if we're a good fit to work together.